Snap Tackle Pod. We are back. The high school football season is over. The award season is over. Doesn't matter. We're still going for at least one more week. Depends on which side of the screen you're talking to me or talking to Dion as to how long we'll go with this puppy. But we are back to, at least for now, wrap up the 2022 high school football season. I'm Mick Schaefer here at the studios, KSHB 41. He is Dion Clisso of Preps Case. He had his own studios there, the Xfinity Studios.
The Xfinity Studios.
You got your Smithville hat on?
This is not Smithville.
Oh,
it's
Blue Spring South. I'm sorry.
Blue Spring South. Blue Spring South.
There's no blue in Smithville.
No, the Smithville house hat that I have is green and has a black S.
Okay.
I think it has the arrow through it too. I'm not sure. I have to go and look at it.
You're about driver 9 iron away from Blue Spring South, where you live.
Yes, as I explained to one Tommy Lepore, who was an All-Simone, he was on the Taylor ballot, was an All-Simone player. When I saw him at the Simone Awards, I could hear his games. I did not. I was working and not able to watch his game. So yes, you can step out the back and you can hear the soft tones of one Dave Cooley, the PA announcer of Blue Springs South, and hear the roar of the crowd and hear the fireworks that go off, and a few more fireworks this year, for a little bit more crowd noise this year for the 7-4 Jaguars after 1-19 the 2 years before that. So things turned in the right direction. But yes, that's the home field. That being said, you could take a hill out, and I might be able to stand on top of my house and see Grain Valley's lights, because they're just down double A from my house as well. So I do not own a Grain Valley hat. My son does. David Alley had gotten a box of hats that were youth hats instead of adult hats. So he gifted my son a Grain Valley football hat. So he has a Grain Valley football hat.
You should swipe it from him.
It would look a little dumb.
Something like my son, they're in my closet every other day, pulling out hoodies, hats, shoes, whatever. And so you owe it probably to your son to just swipe it.
It's coming. I can't fit into any of his stuff, so I can't swipe his stuff yet, but I'm sure it's coming. As
not a snapback, or is it fitted or snapback?
No, this is fitted. His is fitted.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he actually, though, he has a old Colorado Rockies hat of mine that I got at Coors Field. He wears that one now, and I have an old Cincinnati Red ones I bought like when I was in college, fitted hat that he kind of, even though it's a little big for him, he can it doesn't look stupid on him now, so he'll be wearing those occasionally. But no, at just a hair under 5'8", we measured Saturday. It's coming. His basketball shoes are 9.5. He's got a little ways to go to get to Dad's 12s, but he's passing up his small-footed grandfather, who's a 9.5. He's hitting him there. He has a way to go to get to my father, was a 13. So we'll see about that.
You know the shoe sizes of his grandfathers and all that stuff.
Well, because as he grows, he's just like trying on everybody's shoes.
Okay.
Like my grandmother, my wife, and my mom and my wife are kind of close, like 6.5 to 7.5. And so whenever he would get new shoes, they started trying them on, and but they're too big for those, his shoes now. His shoes are too big, and he's down to my father-in-law. I don't know my nephew's shoe size. I mean, he's like 5'9".
Why would you?
I don't know. He's getting married here in a couple weeks. I'll find out though. That's the only reason I know those shoe sizes, is because he's been trying on their shoes.
Okay. And maybe that's a blind spot for me. I don't know a lot of people's shoe sizes. Maybe I should take that hobby up.
You have a growing boy. What'd you guys do around your house? Just you just bought him shoes, both of them, or did the older one? Did Aiden?
My sons and I were about the same size. My middle one's probably about 13 now. So I'm 12. So those are the only shoe sizes. I don't know my wife's shoe size. Those are the only 3 shoe sizes I know. That's it.
Well, Aiden, I was gonna say, did Aiden wear out his shoes? Did you ever get him down to Abe? Is there anything you've been able to pass down that way, or was it just destroyed?
It's a rule every new sports season you need brand new shoes for that sport. And so that's that nobody wears anybody else's shoes. That'd be too much.
Well,
my kids even drive each other to high school, right? I mean, and they live closer to their school than you do to Blue Springs South.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're even closer to the Mill Valley than I am to Blue Springs South.
No, and first of all, they could walk, but no, it would be driving separate times to school. It's great. Anyway, I digress. Hey, let's talk about some state championship games. We'll begin with Fort Osage. How about it on the Missouri side? Class 5. That was a Friday game, right?
Yeah, it was Friday night. Friday night
game in Columbia, taking on Francis Howell, and look, we kind of talked about it a few times throughout the season. A Francis Howell team that looked the part all season long, and
Yeah.
juggernaut. And they looked it in the state championship game too.
Well, and I think that there was a question, they've had a history of getting there and not winning. So that was kind of their one thing, but they were in 5, the one student away from being in 6.
Really? Huh.
So, I mean, they were somebody being sick that day, or 2 kids being sick that day to being in class 6. And from what I had heard from people out there, that they would have been the second best team. They probably would have beat a DeSmet, beat a Marquette, Troy Buchanan, all those teams. They would have beaten. I think they beat a few of those. They were undefeated. They have a few of those on their schedule. So yeah, they were definitely a pretty good team. They had probably more athletes, and that says a lot. The River Peppers and Lorenzo Fenner and some of those guys on Fort Osage, I think they're a little more athletic. My scouting report from Francis Howell is a great one, because Alan Wilmus, coach of Blue Springs South, is a 1 Francis Howell grad, and 2 was an assistant coach there right out of college for a few years. Well, not right out of college, but he was there for a few years. And he told me that this is not the Francis Howell team that lost to Blue Springs in 2012, where Blue Springs ran all over him. He said that, he goes, we finally have some athletes, some dudes. He goes, it's a different looking team. He goes, they were really good. And I think early on in that game, it was 7-7. I mean, Francis Howell went right down the score. First play from scrimmage, River Peppers breaks off an 80-yard touchdown run. So it's 7-7. Now, that being said, that put the Fort Osage defense right back on the field.
Yeah.
And it was 14-7. I think it was 21-7, and there was a punt. They forced a punt, and there was like a ball that maybe, either grazed a Fort Osage player or maybe didn't. It was a close call. My nephew who was run the scoreboard for me said, it looked like if they'd have gotten that, that call wouldn't have gone against them, would have gone their way. Fort Osage was building some momentum with their defense and getting things going. And then they blinked an eye, and it was 35-7 at halftime. Played them even up after that, 49-21. But that little stretch of time there where they were down 21-7 and gave up those 2 touchdowns kind of did them in. And saw Brock Bolt, the Fort Osage coach of the Simone Wars. He said we just kind of ran into a buzzsaw there for about 10 minutes. Just it didn't go our way, and they weren't able to go back. But great season by Fort Osage. Hard-nosed kids, tough kids. Really play hard. A lot of good players. Lorenzo Fenner, was a Taylor finalist. We're still coming out of the pandemic, so I don't get out as much as I used to. First time Lorenzo Fenner, big kid. He's like 6'3". I mean, he's a big, tall kid and a really good looking athlete. And, that's a good team. And they went a step further than they went the year before, losing the semifinals. So, Coach Bolt joked, it took Ryan Schartz to the 3rd time. Took him the 3rd time to get in the state championship game to win it. So he's hoping the next one he gets to,
there you go.
It'll be his turn. So.
No, that's awesome. Great season by Fort Osage and getting all the way there. And then the other game we had was in Class 1, East Buchanan repeating as champs. And this thing was never in doubt. This is they could be building something pretty big up there in East Buck. Yeah,
they roll into and play an Adrian team whose tailback was a little banged up coming in, and then I guess on Friday at a walkthrough at Odessa, their fullback and defensive lineman, starting defensive lineman, tweaks an ankle, tries to go and can't. And I hats off to Coach Ritter at East Buchanan, because I was like, wow, you guys smoked them. And I knew that they were facing injuries going into that game. And he goes, I think we still win that game. He goes, that's a pretty good football team in Adrian who are down a couple key. It's Class 1. You can't just pluck out. Yeah, you're right. 2 starters and pluck somebody back in there. Even the good teams a lot of times battle with depth. Yeah, and so he goes, I think the outcome wouldn't have changed. He goes, but I think it'd have been a little closer. But the one thing about East Buchanan is, that they have Trevor Klein, the outstanding tailback, and he's so good. I mean, he's a little bit of a shifty, not a very big kid. He's got good speed and he finishes runs. So you come in thinking we got to stop the run. Well, they could spread you out and throw the ball. And then Cole Young, who's an Adrian guy, the Adrian PA guy who does work for me, texts me. He's like, because he knew they were weak against the pass. He's like, we can't stop the pass. Now we can't. Now we have no idea what's coming. He goes, it's going to be over. It's going to be over quick. Yeah. I mean, because when you struggle in that area and when they're picking their poison, and that's what they did. They really dominated that game. Klein was our athlete of the week on a Wednesday night, 5'7", and they compare him to a Deuce Vaughn.
right? And so Haley and her story was, put them both side by side and their running style. And he's an outstanding receiver too. Made one of the
Oh
best
yeah.
catches I've ever seen in that. I think it was the semifinal game.
Yeah, he made a big catch in the semifinal game.
Lefty, kind of Odell Beckham'd it and came down with it. Yeah, between two defenders. Just a heck of an athlete. I think he had 10 touchdowns in the final 2 games of the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah, he finished, I think, with 40 plus total touchdowns, 39 rushing, I think. Yeah, and there's a lot of those guys that are coming back. They lose some good football players. They've got 8 seniors, and Coach Ritter says he thinks 5 or 6 of them will play college football. And while some of you who don't pay attention to Class 1 football all that well, if they tell you they got 5 college football players of the seniors who are graduating on Class 1, they got some dudes. Because that's a lot.
Like D1 or anything. It'd be
no,
NAIA Division II. I mean, that's with the opportunities those small towns don't have compared to the opportunities that the big school kids do. If you're a D2 player coming out of a small school, you're a hell of an athlete.
Yeah, no doubt. And he also told us that they have 8 seniors graduating. They had 63 or 64 players for Class 1, which is huge. I mean,
wow, that's huge.
They have 16 or 17 freshmen right now coming in, so they're going to have more numbers next year. The problem that they're going to run into in East Buchanan is there's only like 4 coaches. So East Buchanan, I'm not trying to tell the school district how to run things, but you might want to find a stipend or 2 out there to get a few more coaches, because while people think, and I had Coach Walm say, hey, back in the day at Shawnee Mission East or Shawnee Mission West, we only had 4 guys doing it. It's a little different now, and the coach to player ratio is a huge thing of keeping kids involved and intact, and making sure that your practice is worthwhile. I mean, you're not just have kids standing around.
Yeah.
And so that's a big thing. And boy, East Buchanan looks like they're primed for at least maybe one more. But when you're bringing in, and it's a thing about East Buchanan too, is they had 220 kids, 25 kids. And Coach Ritter told me at the beginning of the season that more than half of those were in athletics. And he goes, you could pick out the kids that aren't in either athletics or debate or not, or doing it all. You know what I'm saying? He goes, there are a lot of kids who aren't involved in something in that school. Yeah. And that says something about that community and that school district. So it's good to see them get success. And I think they may be kings of that classification, maybe for another year and be battling for it for a while.
Yeah. Gower, Missouri. And
Gower, Missouri.
The teams that came closest to him down the stretch are at all this season outside of Savannah, who's like a Class 3 school.
Class 3, yeah, that's who beat him.
Was Midbuck. Midbuck played him close.
Early on, and then Gallatin up there.
Gallatin was right there too with a 14-6.
So those are teams that played them tough. But Class 1, Valley Catholic down in southeast part of the state as a private school dominated it for so long. They've been bumped up, and now you're seeing some public schools really take control of that Class 1, and Northwest and Western Missouri basically take control of that Class 1 classification.
My high school, at the end of our junior year, 11-man football, we had 17 on the roster. Okay, 11-man football. I looked up, I think it was Cunningham that won 6-man football in Kansas. We have 6-man football over in Kansas. I don't think they had that in Missouri yet, right?
No, just one class of 8-man. Yeah.
Now Kansas has 2 classes of 8-man and then 6-man football. Cunningham, they had 20 dudes out. I'm like, come on, you can play 8-man, right? With 20 guys. 63 is unbelievable for Class 1. And sometimes we talk about just having that depth, and the numbers is such a big part of being able to win. So congratulations to East Buck. And so we have just 3 champs, right, in the Kansas City area this year?
Yeah, and we had do we have 3 last year? No, we had 4 last year.
5 last year.
5 last year. Yeah, we had this Class 6A and then the Class
6,
4.
5, and 4A in Kansas, and then Smithville and East Buck in Missouri.
Right? Yeah, Smithville and East Buck. Highway 169. There's a few titles been up and down that highway the last few years. A pretty solid year. I think going into it, if you look at the Kansas side, we probably assumed 4A and 5A would come back to Kansas City. 6A was a question mark.
Yeah.
All the way through. And then as we got closer to it, Gardner was playing so well, and they were for real.
It could have easily been a sweep.
And it could have easily
6A for Kansas. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if Blue Valley Northwest broke Derby last year, but the beat down that Blue Valley Northwest put on Derby last year, I think opened some eyes.
Yeah, they lost 3 games this year. Now, granted, one was to Mays.
Yes.
And then 2 were to Manhattan.
But at the same time, though, I think that and I'm not saying that the teams in the Eastern side needed somebody to beat Derby, but Derby had been slapping around some teams from the East side in the state championship game outside of Graham Mertz, 1 year, and they beat Graham Mertz the next, and the Henry Martin Blue Valley North team, and they've been taking what they wanted when they wanted. Even an Eric Driscoll coach Blue Valley team a few years before that. So it's an Olathe North team
North 1 year
with
made
Arlen
it there.
Bruce. Yeah, Arlen Bruce. When Blue Valley Northwest kind of stepped on them and beat them up at the line of scrimmage,
you're right.
It showed that maybe that it's there, and
they bleed. They can be cut. They can bleed.
Yes, it was definitely a Rocky IV moment. Youngins, go look that up. It's definitely one of those where they, if he bleeds, you can get him, that kind of thing. So it was a good run for Derby, and I'm not saying they're gone by any means, but no, I think the 6A is definitely going to be wide open again next year too.
Something else that was wide open this year was the Simone Award race, and we kind of pegged it from the beginning. There's so many guys. There's no clear cut, guy ahead of the pack. And it seemed like every week you were introducing new names. And I don't know, did we ever talk about Kendrick Bell? If we did, it was very late.
We did. I mean, one of those things about Kendrick is Kendrick put up big numbers every week, but they had to just to compete in games. Their defense struggled most of the season. They were behind. They gave up big leads. They came from behind. And then, really the last few weeks of the season, they started to find themselves. They took Lee Summit North to overtime. They beat Rockhurst in the first week of the playoffs, and they lose to Park Hill South in a get back game because they got Park Hill South in a wild and crazy first time around. That was the rain night, which played into the Park Hill South's way of doing things. But no, he put up really nice numbers, and in fact, in the first Park Hill South game, he got the interception to close things out. So it was a wide open year, and you saw Sam Van Dyne, who was a finalist before, Kane Green as an offensive lineman. One, make the ballot, but two, get in the Final Four, and I think he deserved it. And then, of course, Malik Oatis, who just had 40 touchdowns and 2,000 yards in 9 games. Yeah, and was easily one of the top tailbacks, in the Metro, especially when you watch what he did against big time teams. So it was wide open. Those are the finalists. I mean, then we had the ballot had a guy like Zach Darsh, who was a linebacker, quarterback, and Briggs Bartosh, who started out the year as a tailback and then moved to running back for Park Hill South. So a lot of those guys that, really, it was just a different year. And sometimes, when it's wide open, I think that, he got the most consistent, Kendrick got the most consistent support, and really, talking to that kid, hadn't really talked to him before. He's got that kind of it factor quarterback.
He does. Great kid to talk to.
Yes.
Gosh, what a fun interview he was.
Yeah. And for a guy who was a quarterback of the 3-18, he almost would, he's like, hey, look, our defense, we had to help our defense out. That's our job. We had to do it. And just an understanding of what it was like, and really, took that on himself and definitely, joins his brother, Ronnie, who won it in 2017 as the only brothers. I mean, we really, the Simone Award gave out its 40th award. And I think we're getting to the point where it's matured to the point we've got fathers and sons winning it and now brothers winning it. So we're starting to go down that road. It reminds me of the first time I really felt old, about 10 years ago. I was out of Blue Springs at a quarterback camp, and the guy by the name of Leroy Pruitt, who was a receiver at Blue Springs, was on their first state championship team back in 1992, went on to play for Bill Walsh at Stanford. Really good college player. He was out there doing some stuff with the receivers, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. And, Leroy's only 3-4 years younger than me. I was pretty young when those teams were winning a state title. And we were talking. I was like, "Yeah, good to see you." He's like, "Oh, we're a lot older." And he goes, "You want to feel old? Lou Shepard's kid's over there. He's a sophomore." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And Lou's, so that was like the first when Darius Shepard came through. That was like the first time I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Now we're starting to see the kids. Yeah.
And it was a great story, and it was really cool that Ronnie surprised him coming back there, and the first brothers to win it, and both kind of were surprises. I remember back to 2017, I'm like, whoa, thought Ronnie Bell would win the Taylor, and he did, but kind of out of nowhere he did. But then, as is the case so many times, at least I felt like, okay, did the right guy win it? The right guy won it in 2017. I mean, he's starring on one of the best college football teams, and has played for years, the last 3 or 4 years for them, and has got his chance to go win a national title. He's going to go to the NFL next year. A great selection there. And with Kendrick, I know they didn't get a whole lot of wins, 3, but I mean, look, they took, and he played his best football, I think, towards the end. They took Lee Summit North
Yes.
to double overtime. They beat a really good Rockhurst team in the playoffs, and he starred in that game. And so against good competition, they almost beat Blue Springs South in a crazy, 50-49 game. And so, he doesn't play on the defensive side, and that was the deal. That you could not ignore the numbers. And just when you see him, I mean, athletically and how good he is at basketball, I think they got the right one this year too.
Well, and he went and dropped 19. He was the leading scorer that night. He won the Simone for Park Hill in their win.
That's hilarious.
I looked at the box score. He was the leading scorer that night. So, and his brother Marquez is going to SEMO to play basketball. And, Ronnie was going to Missouri State,
Missouri
which was my
State,
age,
yep.
Until football kind of got going for him. And you're right. Kendrick was a lot like his brother. His biggest moments came against the biggest teams and the best teams. So, and look, I could find you 3 wins real easy on their schedule if things go one play or the other. And a Ray Peck game that I legitimately thought Ray Peck had lost, that Park Hill had won that game. 1, because it was taking forever. 2, because I was waiting to come on the air to do Under the Lights and did not see that Park Hill had come back and scored 2 touchdowns in the final minute, including one where they thought it was best to leave a kid wide open by himself, 30 yards away from the quarterback. That's a game I thought Park Hill won. I was like, wow, what a great win for Park Hill. I didn't say that on the air. And then I got out there and I'm like, wait, Ray Peck won that game? So, I mean, there's games like that didn't go Park Hill's way. So, yeah, he was outstanding, almost 3,200 yards passing. Yeah, and really, he's a good runner. I mean, he's just a good athlete. He's skinny. There's no doubt about that. He's a skinny kid. He's going to need to put some weight on to play quarterback in the college football ranks. But I'll tell you this, like we talked about right off the bat, he has that it factor. When you talk to him, he's the kind of guy. And there's a lot of different ways to have that it factor and be the quarterback. You can be Joe Montana, or even I'd say Patrick Mahomes in terms of humbleness, kind of down to earth. You can be, I'm a rock star, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers type guys, but you got to have something to have those other 10 guys in the huddle go, okay, we got you. Yeah. We're going to go do what you say. And he does have that it factor.
No, it was good to see a fun ceremony out there on Tuesday at Park Hill. Some of the other award winners, I thought they did I think we touched on at least last week. Did we touch on all of them?
Yeah, we did.
Because we recorded, on Thursday when the Buchanan was announced. But great Buchanan field. I mean, Melvin Lastry's won 2.
Yes,
that'd be the first to win 3 awards. There's only been a few that have won anything twice or more than 1 award. He's won 2, and he's going to come back and be the favorite to win the Buchanan next year. And he's going to go wherever he wants to play college football. He wins the Buchanan this year.
Yeah, and it was a great field. I mean, the 4 finalists, all 4 of them, if they're playing on Sunday, I'm not going to be stunned. Edric Hill and PJ Adebayo from North Kansas City. They're both going Power 5.
Yeah.
Alabama and Oklahoma.
Yep.
I think that's correct.
And then Caden Green's going to Oklahoma. And
Caden Green's going to Oklahoma.
Wherever.
Melvin Lasher's going wherever he wants to go.
Yeah.
I hear Columbia, Missouri is lovely this time of year. Melvin, there's a guy who
knows, a lot of them might be going to multiple locations for their college career, the way things go now.
I would tell Melvin there's a guy that you heard speak at the Simone Awards, Nick Bolton, and you could be Nick Bolton version 2.0. You don't have to be in black and gold, but if you're going to go down that path and be a possible one day All-Pro NFL linebacker, Nick Bolton's definitely a guy to go down that.
All right, that's your pitch, Dion.
Yes, I'm done pitching. I'm done pitching. But we gave out the Coach of the Year award.
Oh, that's right. We haven't talked about it. So Brian DeLong wins it over. Wilmus was up for it. Jesse Owen, Lauren Clark.
Yeah, Jesse Owen from Gardner, and then Lauren Clark from Olathe Northwest, and that's a first year guy. Now he's been on staff there, so he knows those kids and has a little bit of home field advantage. He didn't walk in the door fresh, but any first year coach to go from figuring out how to be a first year coach, and I'm not saying he would struggle. His whatever first year struggles he had were different than anybody else's. You could talk. I can bring in 5 really good head coaches, and they're going to tell you whatever you think you know in year 1, you didn't know. Mm-hmm. There's just things you don't know, no matter how prepared you are. To go from that and have that team just get a little bit better each week, and then they go and they beat an Olathe West in a quarterfinal game. and then they got hammered by Gardner Edgerton in the semifinal game. But that team has been around for almost 20 years, and that's the furthest they've been. And I mean, he got them believing, and you could see the size of those kids and the way they played. And by the end of the season, they were playing. They got better each week, and that's all you can do. That's all you can do. Beating somebody bad in week one doesn't do anything for you. It's all about getting better each week. And he did an outstanding job. Lauren Clark, Jesse Owen, of course, came over he took a year off after Olathe East and took the Gardner job. He's a Gardner guy now. I know the people in Olathe will probably find that hard to believe, but he lives in Gardner now. That's his community. Got that team to the state championship game and was about a foot away from winning it with a 2-point conversion. Alan Wilmus, we've talked about him, 1-19 to 7-4. They win the first week against Lee Summit team, lose to Rockers the next week, and then in week 3 they beat a Park Hill 50-49. That kind of helped springboard them going forward. And then Brian Along, just what he's done with Center's got some athletes. There's no doubt about that, but they don't have a lot of numbers. And to be 11-0 to win an MRVC West title, to play Smithville to 20-0, a Smithville team that was easily the second best team in the state in Class 4. And really, not that it's a lifetime achievement award, but he does that year in, year out at Center. He gets kids and gets kids into college, and he's got 2 kids in the pros right now. And Malik Collins, who's with the Texans, who won the Bell Award in 2012, and then Rashad White, who was not even the starting tailback at Center. Norvell Trent was the starting tailback, and Rashad White was the slot back. And he took what he learned at Center, went to Nebraska Kearney, then went to a junior college, and then Arizona State. And now, if you watch the Monday Night Football game, he scored the game-winning touchdown for the Bucs. Yeah. So there's not a lot of schools have 2 guys in the NFL currently. And Center High School, Center High School Class 4 in Missouri does. So this year's team, and he had Harold Tafak who won the Bell this year. Joseph Vick was a finalist for the Fontana, and then Armand Russell was on the ballot for the Taylor Award as a receiver. But you talk to Tafak, and those kids, they really get what's going on at Center, and Center's really been able to get those kids and put them in a position to do well. And there's a lot of other ones that go on to college, or they go on and have successful careers outside of it that have gone through there. He's also the track coach too, so he's got a lot of influence on them. 2 times out of the season. And when I interviewed him, I did it afterwards. We did a Zoom after the Simone Awards were over that afternoon. He was at the school at 3:30. I was like, well, I figured you'd go home. And he goes, well, we got a wrestling meet up here, so I'm going to watch the kids wrestle and do that. So he's a 24/7. He's got a nice wife and 2 daughters and a good home life, but he definitely gives everything he's got to Center High School.
He has a lot of fun at Park Hill, getting out there, the 3rd Simone Award winner. 40 Simone Awards now have been given out from 1983 to 2022.
How many Simone Award winners have there been?
Uh-oh. I feel like
it's a trick question, but it's not.
39, right?
Yes.
Because Dalvin won it twice.
Yes. Kendrick is not the 40th Simone winner. He won the 40th Simone handed out. That he's the 39th person to win the Simone Award.
That's right.
Dalvin with the 2 there. That's one of those.
And he was there. I saw Dalvin there.
Dalvin was there. Trying to think who else was there. Dalvin was there.
Tom Ali was there.
Tom Ali looked like he ready to play.
But Kansas City Chiefs, great.
And so it was a good event all the way around. And some former. There's always former winners. Almost, I think most of the time of Ronnie was there. He was a former Taylor winner. I think every award had a former winner there.
Yeah, I think so too.
I will say this: the Buchanan's harder and harder because those guys all end up playing big time college football.
Right?
NFL. PJ Adebayo's brother Tommy won it in 2018, and he's at Northwest. He just graduated Northwestern. He's got a shot to play in the NFL. Wow. I mean, he's a big time player too. So, if you're looking for your NFL guys, go through the Buchanan Award on the Simone Award. The last decade has been really big time. Evan Boehm, who's finishing up his NFL career. His dad was there, and he will be.
Royce was there.
Yeah, I think Evan will be back in the Metro. You'll probably be seeing him on some Preps KC stuff. He's ready to get back and get into some football. He's excited about it. So, no, it was a good season. What did you think?
That was a great season.
I mean, you get to go to another state championship game. So
absolutely,
I mean, 4 in a row for you.
Sign me up. Ready to start the next season like in January. Let's go. I hate that we have to wait all the way, but at schools like Mill Valley, the season's probably already started for next year. Just
Yes, I would
ways
assume
goes,
that.
ways
I
go,
assume.
and then they got a combine in May, and then check out pads in June, and you're off and running with 7-on-7 and team camps and traveling and scrimmaging teams and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a year round deal. One of the things I love though, and you see it some places and others you don't, is that you got kids that are, if they're not doing off season weights, they're playing basketball, they're wrestling, they're doing that kind of stuff. Here's a team. Dude, if you liked Olathe North football, you'll love Olathe North boys basketball. They've got
a lot of the
3-4 guys. They've got the Parrish twins,
Parishes, yeah,
and they've got
Porter.
Gunderson and Porter. I mean, those are 4 key guys to what they did, and
Do they
they're
have any post players, or do they need any? Are those guys?
They've got like a
5 guards.
They've got a sophomore or freshman who's like 6'5", but he's kind of skinny. At one point in the game that I saw on Friday night, and they played Rockbridge, one of the Parrish twins was guarding the 6'7" guy in the post and out jumping him for rebounds.
Sure.
And then Gunderson comes in and looks like a middle linebacker who's there to patrol the middle, and he comes in, throws some elbows and gets physical, and then they've got some really good basketball players who don't play football on that team as well. So Jalen Watson, I think, is a kid who was the tournament MVP there, but that's a team I'm going to keep an eye on in high school basketball as Olathe North.
Like it.
It makes it easy. They got a lot of football players on there as well.
You already know the names.
Yeah, that does make it easy when there's football players on there. And I think last year, the first time I saw Josh Manning play any kind of sport was at Blue Valley last year playing basketball, and I was like, holy cow, that guy's a stud. So.
All right, anything else we need to hit on before we get out of here?
No, till next week.
Till next time, whenever that is.
Next time.
Maybe next week it's just Dion. I mean, you could go by. You can ask yourself questions.
No, people have told me it's the two. It's the two.
I'm a placeholder here.
It's the two of us together. I had multiple people come up and talk to me about this podcast.
Family members don't count, Dion.
Not my family, not your family. None of our families were there. Random people I had not met before.
Well, that's good. That's good.
I know you're busy. We'll squeeze it in. The fans.
Until next time on Snap Tackle Pod, I'm Mick Schaefer. He's Dion Clisseau. Thanks for watching.